Tay? What do you go by?
Taylor, Tay, whatever.
Yeah.
Go by them all.
How did you decide on the Instagram name of Taytayski?
I'm Taylor Odynski.
Oh, okay.
Taytayski just had a nice ring to it.
Nice.
And I literally made that in high school, so like 15 years ago. I've been on Instagram since it was invented.
So when you were in high school, like you were taking art classes,
Yes.
I'm imagining. Okay.
Yes.
And at that point, did you think you were going to be an artist?
No, not at all. Like my whole life, I loved art. Like my parents just kind of gave me art supplies and let me be the little weird art kid in the corner. They weren't artistic at all, but I just always gravitated towards drawing, sketching, doodling, like drawing VHS, like Disney VHS covers is kind of actually, like I remember doing that when I was like 4 is kind of where my like love for art came. And it was something that just like calmed my brain down a little bit. Have a raging ADHD and I don't think I noticed as a kid, but it's the only thing that kind of quiets my brain. So it's something that I just loved doing. I never ever thought it would be my job. It was never presented to me in a way that was like, oh, this could be a career. I have two like pretty old school parents where it was like, you go to college, you get a job. So art wasn't really presented to me in that way. But I always took in high school art classes and things like that. And it was when I graduated, I thought I was going to be a dental hygienist for some reason, but I failed Chem 30 with the final test. So then I was like, oh my God, holy shit, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And my friend went to ACAD, the Alberta College of Art and Design. And she's like, you like to draw? It's fun here. Like, come try it out. And that was kind of a way for me to get in with my parents, right? Like, well, it's college. Like, it's still college.
It's secondary education,
yes,
right?
Right? I don't really know where it would go, what type of job I would have out of it, but it was something that I kind of was able to talk my way into being the right direction to go. And so once I got into ACAD, I found out really quickly that I loved it and that there are opportunities and jobs that you can have. And here we are, what was it, 10 years later? I think I've been full-time for almost 10 years, which is crazy.
Holy smokes.
When I graduated ACAD, though, I still was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I could be a children's book illustrator. I could be an animator at Pixar. There was so many directions to go. And I just decided I'm going to move back in my parents' basement because I'm not going to go get a job to like pay the bills because I'll be stuck in that job forever. Like I just knew in my brain that it would be hard for me to be a server and then come home and work my painting hours. I would kind of lose that passion for it. So I just went to my parents' house and said, I will paint you a painting. Anybody, you want a painting of your dog? You want a painting of your motorcycle, your grandma, like anything for anyone. I was just kind of slanging paintings on the streets to a lot of our friends growing up. Like they were just getting new homes. They were needing art for their walls. So it was kind of my friends that I like broke out my career on, kind of.
Very cool.
Which was just an interesting way to get there.
So you decided from the get-go, like, okay, I'm going to do the artist and entrepreneur route.
Well, it just kind of fell in that way, honestly, because like I didn't have any job offers, right? It was like, well, I know that I can paint pictures for people. I love painting. I don't care what I paint. I think that like helps for my path also a little bit. Because there's some people that are very stuck in what they want to paint, how they want to paint. Well, I was just like, I like painting. I don't care what it is. So I can fulfill a service for people who can't paint. And there were so many people in my life that aren't in the art world. So it kind of like helped. That's where the Painter for the People name that I've coined kind of started, was because it was like bringing art to people that they weren't really in that art world anyway. They're not going to art galleries. They're not really, like, they don't understand how art works.
Right.
So I was providing like a cheap service, because at the start, who am I to charge thousands of dollars for a painting? I'm just a new little artist on them when I've come on the up, right? So I was doing cheap, fast paintings for people is how it kind of started. And then it was like, holy shit, I can do this. People, like, I moved out of my parents' basement real quick because it was a demand that I found and was able to fulfill, I guess.
Yeah, you found your niche and like you were able to deliver on it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So like I saw it on your Instagram, the Painter for the People, which is awesome. It's a great name. And one of the things that like we've called our festivals, which you were at this past weekend, it's like a party for the people.
Yes.
Because it's like 18-year-olds all the way up to my parents come, and they're
100%.
like 65, 70, and they're
all
having a good
the
time.
best time.
The best time.
Yeah.
And like it's such a weird environment that normally never happens. Like you go to specific bars or like a specific niche of people.
Specific music, right?
100%.
There's a bunch of different music at last weekend, every corner you go to is a different genre of music is playing. Really.
To bring everyone together under
Yeah.
like some interesting kind of quirky umbrella.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you moved out of your parents' house fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Did you get a studio right away, or it was all still in your like apartment?
All still in apartment. So
Okay.
I was living with my boyfriend at the time, now husband. We still live together, and
Amazing.
so every apartment we moved to, the biggest bedroom was my studio.
Cool.
And I like loved working from home. It doesn't give you much like work-life balance really, and as an entrepreneur, you don't really have that anyway. But it was so nice to like, the inspiration hits, I'll just walk into that other bedroom and paint something or varnish something quick or whatever. It was, I loved working from home. I really did.
I want to like, so you said when the inspiration hit. So as an
Yes.
artist, like
Yes.
I've heard kind of two different ways. It's like every morning I get up for, say you're a writer, and I
Yeah.
sit at my laptop and I write regardless of whether I want to or not.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's like for you, do you have that process, or do you actually have to kind of wait for it to come to you and then you're like, oh, now I need to paint?
50-50. Like when it becomes your job, sometimes you have to force it out,
Right.
right? Where it's like, I have deadlines I have to hit. Even if I don't want to paint, I have to paint right now. And sometimes that like sucks the life out of you.
Yeah.
But I would say more so that it's like when I feel like painting is when the best stuff happens, right?
That's when you get into like the
Yeah.
present moment and quicker.
And that like brain shut off like flow state or whatever, right? And also like there are times where I just like know I have to paint and I don't feel like it, but I just have to like force myself, and I'm literally just sitting like begrudgingly putting paint on an canvas, and then it like sometimes comes. But you can't. That's the hardest part about making a creative thing your job, is that it sometimes you can't force it.
Right. You can't force the muse.
No,
You just have to be there and, hope it comes
Yeah.
your way. And
Hope
like,
for the best.
do you think like the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you make it your profession,
Yeah.
that kind of commitment to that process is like, okay, I know this person's serious about it. I'll
Yeah.
visit them more often.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Do you view, like, have you heard that term, the muse, before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your like concept on the muse flow? Like, cause the art that you create is amazing. And the fact that you could do it in such a short amount of time, speaks to like your skill and your ability that you've practiced that.
Yes, practice for sure.
Practice. But when you get into that state and the creativity's coming, how do you kind of view that state of mind? Flow, the muse, the best.
Again, like someone with ADHD whose brain is like running a mile a minute all the time, and I'm distracted like a squirrel all the time. It's like magic, honestly, that like something natural can just like become make you into such a different state so quickly. It's funny though, like talking about, I'm glad that you said like practice, because it's funny when it's a lot of us artists get like annoyed when people are like, oh, you're so like talented, and it's like, well, I've painted thousands of paintings at this point, like I better be good.
Yeah.
Like,
The 10,000 hours have been there, man.
Yeah, plus,
Yeah.
right? I didn't come out of the womb amazing at painting. I came out wanting to paint, which is like a bonus for me. Obviously that, because some people don't care about painting, so they don't have the interest to put in the time. But time is going to make you better no matter what. Like every sketchbook I have all my sketchbooks from when I was a young child. Like they get better no matter what. You're never going to plateau as an artist if you're just always trying and pushing and working. It just always gets like better, and that flow state always gets like deeper or like more harnessable the more times you do it, because you can like feel it when it's coming, or like understand. Like my work is very drippy, painty, messy, because I like to let the paint do whatever it wants and then like work off that.
Okay.
So like I can't plan a painting. Like I try sometimes, and when I'm working with clients, right, I give them like a rough estimate of what like I think it's gonna look like, but the painting takes its own journey. Like it literally never turns out exactly what I picture in my like rough drawings or try to imagine in my head. And I think that's like so cool. Like that to me is like the muse, the flow state of like, it is like the painting making itself, as like arty floopy as that like
It has a mind of its own or something.
It literally does, because with the wet drippy paint, like I don't know how those splatters are gonna go or how the drips are gonna go, but in design art school I learned about like balance, color theory, like all those types of things, that when I look at the painting as it's coming together, I can like fill in all those spaces and shapes to make it look like a cohesive, complete painting.
And like there's so many different modalities of art, like in painting in particular, right? Why did you choose the specific I guess tool you would call it, like the
medium,
the specific medium that you use? Have you dabbled in all of them?
Yeah. in art school they talk like it's like Picasso. It's like he says like learn the rules so you can break them like an artist or whatever. And
learn the rules like a pro or something
like
break
that.
like an artist. Yeah.
So you can break them like an artist because like you don't know what you like or how things are going to work until you physically try them. And like I teach people paint nights and I always tell them like I can easily tell you like dip your brush in this much and put a swipe here, but like until you physically feel it and feel what the difference of like too much water or not enough water or all these things, even if I'm telling you, it doesn't work until you like feel it out 5 or 6 times, whatever, right? Like you have to physically try it yourself. But mine is funny. I use acrylic paints and pencil crayons and glitter. Those are like my 3 main tools. And it's kind of because I'm lazy. Like oil paints are beautiful and blendable and can make very hyper-realistic things out of them. They take forever to dry.
Gotcha.
And I will lose interest. Like if I don't finish a painting fast, which helps me like paint faster, I lose interest. So I use acrylic paints. They dry very fast. And I'm all about working on mistakes because I'm kind of working it out on the canvas, right? So like I posted the time lapse of the city painting I did this weekend at Beer Fest, and you can see like I drew the saddle dome and then I kind of like erased it because it was like too high in the canvas or whatever. So I kind of like wiped it away and redrew it. And if I was oil paint, I would literally have to wait like a month to be able to cover over top of it because the paint doesn't dry. While acrylic's like 3, 4, 5 minutes. I can cover over top of that.
Easy.
No mistakes. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, how do you not make mistakes? I make mistakes literally all the time. I just cover them up.
I've just chosen a medium that allows me to like rewind that.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. Rewind like, ooh, undo. Not good.
Backclick, backspace. Nice on art.
1,000%. And I think that makes a cool painting too because there's like layers added. Like you can like see the process almost, which is kind of like fun too.
So it sounds like I'm just kind of tapping to the art scene. I'm not an artist in that way. We were talking earlier about the process of like seeing images in your mind's eye.
Yes. Yeah.
How, and like you said, some artists can see it perfectly.
And just like people, even not artists.
Or
like,
people.
Yeah. There's a range of, I wish I remembered the name of it. Someone might remember me talking about it, but it's like a test where it's like, tell somebody to picture an apple. And when they close their eyes, like, do you see a red, perfect apple? Do you see like a flat, like not a 3D, like a flat? Do you see a gray apple? Do you see just the outline of apple or do you see no apple? That's like the range of it. And I'm like the second, like not no apple. I'm like maybe like a loose outline of an apple. While some people can literally close their eyes and picture exactly this perfect image, perfect faces, everything. And those like photographic memory, basically, people can just paint whatever they want from what's in their brain. But I like need to look at a picture of something because I don't have that like inner image, I guess, type thing. I wish I remember the name of it. I'll find it at some point. But it's for every range of person, artist or not. There's that range of what you see when you close your eyes. And like how some people hear voices, like they can, like they talk to themselves in their head. Some people don't. Like it's just like interesting how, because you just think everybody is the same as you.
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah. And so when we learned about that in school, I was like, holy, that's like very interesting. Like I couldn't imagine. I'm like the art I would be able to make if I could just close my eyes and like see a giraffe and like paint that giraffe exactly. But for my brain and skill set, I need to like look at something to reproduce it.
So when like if someone has say an idea for I want this in my living room, but they don't have a photo or they're just kind of explaining it to you, would you search for
1,000%.
and then you'd pull that up?
Pinterest, Google.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any of it, and then I create like with Photoshop can like create little mashups or whatever of something like roughly of what we want to work with, and then color and stuff usually comes naturally as it goes. If a client asks though, they're like, I want these colors. I wouldn't. It's hard for me to like mock up exactly where those colors are going to go unless I'm physically painting them a picture as a mock-up. But the communication is very high when you're working with clients, obviously. Like, and since I use acrylic, if I paint something and they don't like it, I can just cover it up.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Ignore.
And so like as because I know so you do client work, but you also like sell prints and stuff that you just create from your set like on your own. And then you also do paint nights and things like this. So how as an entrepreneur I'm imagining you love being in the zone. That's kind of your favorite space to be. Why the paint nights? Why like the other mediums? Is just for additional revenue streams or like to introduce your brand to people? What was your kind of thought to like, hey, I'm not just going to paint my own things and try to sell it, but I'm going to do like custom work. I'm going to introduce painting to people at like a paint night.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your thought process around like tying in multiple things? And not all artists do like paint nights.
Yeah.
Some just do paint nights. Some might not do custom paintings.
And sometimes that's like a demise. Like our teachers would tell us like pick one thing and stick with it and
Right.
be known for that thing. And that probably would work better in the grand scheme. But like back to my like getting bored with things going or like needing to change it up. Like I love painting people's dogs, but I couldn't only paint dogs. Like after a while I'd go mental and I would need to paint something else. So just me needing to like keep it interesting and changing stuff up is where that kind of started. Like commission work was great because I was painting so many different things for so many different people, learning what I did like, what I didn't like. I only have one thing that I won't paint and it's babies.
Makes sense. You will never be able to get it right enough.
2+, that's it. And I learned that in my first years of just doing commissions for people. And then my style kind of developed too, right? The more you paint, the more like naturally things come. You see what you like, you see what you don't. So I loved those commission years. They really like formed what I liked to do and got my name out there obviously too, but helped me develop my style a little bit more. And the paint nights came during COVID actually.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
So like I never in my life would have thought I could teach people. Like my mom, I remember in high school, she was like, you should be an art teacher. And I was like, ew, I have no patience now. Like, I don't know how to do that. And then COVID came. We're all stuck at home. Somebody asked me, like, because I was live streaming me painting, just like me working. And somebody asked, I don't know, would you ever teach a paint night? And like, I think it was, I can't remember what holiday was coming up, like Easter or something. And they asked if I could do something like bunny related. Can you teach us to do this like bunny on paint night? So I said, what? Like, let's see. I don't know. Like, I've never done it before. Let's try. And it went really well. And people kept asking for it. And it turned into this, we called it Thursdays. Every Thursday during COVID, we would do a paint night live stream. And like at one point we had 100 people painting Baby Yoda with me one time.
Wow, amazing.
Wild. All across the world, like people in Poland would like stay up late or whatever. Like it was so cool and so fun and so like rewarding to me to like have these people who didn't think they could paint anything. What I hear the most is, I can't even draw a stick man. Like that's like, I'd be a millionaire if I made money every time somebody said that to me. And then seeing those people like create something that they were like, holy shit, I can do that. And art was something for me that's such like a peaceful, like it's like a therapeutic thing for me. And I think adults who aren't in the art world like don't ever get the chance to just like sit with some paints and play around with it. And I think it's great for brains everywhere, right? So it was just, I was getting such good feedback and such good responses, and which also like inspired and helped me too, and also helped me with my work too, because I'm like breaking down how to create this image for somebody else and making me think more about my process, right? Because usually I don't really like think about it, it just kind of happens.
You just plug into that state and
exactly.
it's gone.
Yeah, and so it takes you out of that a little bit because you have to like teach somebody who's never done it before. And it kind of grew my YouTube because I would just record them, pop them onto my YouTube, and so people still do them now, which is super cool. And that kind of grew. And then it also grows with like the economy. It's like, okay, if the economy is low, art is a luxury. Like people, if they can't afford to fill up their car, they're not going to be buying paintings to put on their wall. And I'm not like quitting my job anytime soon. So people will pay for experiences, right? Like it's like, oh, one night with your friends, $60, $70, we go and like do a paint night, and then you get a painting to like go home with, like, and it's like good for everybody. So like once I moved out into my own studio from my home studio, like that also became a thing of I have this space that people can come to. They don't have to do it at their homes anymore. You can have a like collaborative people space, because I'm an outgoing artist, which also isn't something that is like most, not all obviously, but lots of artists are stereotypically introverted, and I'm extremely extroverted. So it's nice. That's a nice way to feed that part of me also, is like have a group of people come to my space and like give them a good time, and they leave proud of making something on their own, you know, trusting the process. That's also my Bob Ross quote. Yeah. And so that came up, paint nights there, and selling prints was, I wish I started it earlier in my career, because some people can't afford a $2,000 painting, but you can afford a $30 print. So getting my art back to painted for other people to everyone. Again, it's like everyone can have a piece of it, whatever your price range is. You want an original, I can provide you that. But if you want a piece of something that you connect to that I've already painted, you can have a piece of that too. And I don't have to be sitting at the easel painting to like bring income.
Right.
Because that you're like chained to your easel. When it was just original paintings, that's what I was doing. That's the only way I can make money. It is difficult.
It's hard to scale. Impossible, right?
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless I'm having like $1 million clients, which is like not realistic, right?
Not yet. In a couple of years. In a couple of years.
Yeah.
Tay, I need you to paint this whole mural here.
Let's
this is a
go.
month thing. Like, I'm down.
Never say no. I'm a yes girl. I've always have been. So, and that works too. People ask me to do something I've never thought of, like a children's book, and I'm gonna say yes.
Hell yeah.
And now I have a published children's book. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
What's the name?
It's called The Wonders That I Find.
Cool.
And an author, Megan Ward, she's the best, from Banff. She wrote it. It's like this rhyming, beautiful story about like slowing down and smelling the roses, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And she approached me, and we got it published by Rocky Mountain Publishers. So it's in all the like mountain stores and everything on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon.
Very cool.
And that was a project that was I'd never could have figured that out myself, but someone brought it to me, and I would never say no to a cool thing like that.
How long does a children's book take to paint?
A journey.
I can imagine, yeah.
Because I think we have to like decide what's the style. We could have there's millions of styles you can go in. What does our character look like? So you have to draw a bunch of different characters, right?
Right.
And we worked really well together. It was during COVID also, so a lot of Zoom meetings. But like, she was the best. I don't know how every process works, but with her, it was amazing because she gave me the book. I read it immediately and was like, yes, it's a great. Everyone who sees it and reads it is like, it's an amazing children's book, which just like
cool
feeds my soul. But she let me read it. She said it has to be roughly this many pages. You go for it first, like after we decided character and style and whatever. She said, go for it, design, storyboard a bunch of pages, and then I'll get her feedback type of thing. And there was a couple pages where she visioned them differently, right? Because she's writing and creating an image in her mind, right? So we worked together and bounced off ideas, and it took like over a year of like that until we got to the finals. And it was like 40 pages, I think.
Wow.
Maybe. And I watercolor, pencil crayoned them, scanned them all in, and then digitally altered them a little bit to create the book. And it came out 2022, 2022, I think.
Cool.
And the response was amazing, and was so like fun to be part of such like a special project. And then I get like random people message me on Instagram, like pictures of the book, like, oh, seen it wherever. They're in Banff or they're in Jasper or at a bookstore somewhere. And it's so cool to see this like little thing we created together.
No kidding.
All over the place.
Your like creative like expression in something that you never thought it would be like presented in.
Yeah. And like I did a little children's book with a friend, but it was just like us, and we like published it on Amazon, right? Like it wasn't like a real deal publisher. And I get like royalty checks for it every quarter.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
So when you talk about style, like, would you say you have a specific name for your like how do you name it? What would be your style called? Is there? Okay.
People ask me all the time. I don't like. It's like kind of like pop arty, kind of. There's like, it's not realism, but it's like an animated realism kind of in a sense. I don't know if I really have a name for it. Traditional, like to the core, right? Because there's a lot of people who are like digital artists. Like I wish I could be a digital artist, but I just need to like feel the paint on my hands. It's like the only way I know how to do it. But pop art's up there because of like the subject that I paint mostly, right? Like lots of pop culture, very colorful, very in that like direction. But again, with my short attention span, like some days I want to draw on only pencil, or like only black and white, or an abstract piece. Like it's cool. It's fun for me to be able to change up my content and medium all the time. It like probably stresses out my Instagram a little bit because again, I'm not one thing. So I painted a bunch of like baseball players a while ago, and I got a bunch of followers for that. But then like from there, I went to paint on like drag queens, and then like dogs, and then pop culture movements, and like so the followers that follow me for that are like, wait, who is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to maintain like a constant following because I jump around so much. Yeah. But at the same time, like I can't give up. Like then I don't want to sell my soul. You know what I mean? Like it would feel like
this is you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And that's what I hear the most from like my like true followers I've had for a long time is like that I am myself online. Like I try to be as much as myself as I can be, and like people relate to the artist too, right? Like they like to see like the struggle and the journey and the behind the scenes, and I don't like try to sugarcoat anything or like not be myself on there. So I think that like helps too.
What would you call like authenticity?
Yes,
right?
That's the right word for sure. And I try like that's like the best compliment I could ever hear because the internet's a crazy place, like, and it's a curated place, and you never know like how people are seeing it from their side. So it is like humbling to hear that people like think that I am like portraying myself in the best, the most authentic way.
And I think that's just like a natural outcome of you being an artist and pursuing something that drives your you're very passionate about it, right?
Something so, like, I love. I get to draw pictures all day. How can I ever complain?
I think like just authenticity in general is something that everyone's seeking, but a lot of the times people don't have the opportunity to pursue something that they enjoy enough to be authentic with it. So it's just they compartmentalize their mind a little bit, and they're that person at work, and then they finally get to unplug it from at home, and they're like, oh, now I can be myself. And they just don't get to kind of keep that consistent way of being all day, every day, week after week after week, and then I think it affects people in like deeper ways than we kind of let on.
Yep, I would also agree. Just in our capitalist world, obviously.
We need to make money. We need to make money.
Yeah. And too, like even speaking on that though, like art used to be my safe space, right? Like my hobby, my thing to do on the side, and now it's my job, and it's like I love it, but at the same time, like your job is stressful. Like doesn't matter what your job is. So like now, like the only thing in my life that brings me stress is also my job, right? Is also art. So like that's also like an interesting thing to like play around with, and talking about like selling your soul. Like that's why I paint stuff of my own too. Like that's why a lot of, if you like came by my booth at Beer Fest, you'll see that there's like Ace Ventura, there's like Wayne's World, there's like Zoolander, like things like in the 90s that I grew up with and I loved. Like I painted all those things because I love them, right? And then it gets me to connect with people who also love them, which is like fun too, right? Like yes, I paint things that people want, but I also get to paint things that I want and I enjoy, and that's like my like mental downtime in the studio too. Because if I never painted for that little artist, hey, that's why I'm here. That's why I became this. It didn't fall in my lap by any means. Like I remember my uncle like scolded me when I said that it fell in my lap, because obviously I've worked very hard, and I have worked hard for 10 years. It's not like it ever turns off, but it's not like I planned to be an artist, right? Like it fell in my lap because of all these like choices that I ended up making. But I still have to remember, why did I make all those choices? Because I love painting. I love that like.
That was your North Star in some way, right? Giving you direction to follow that. And I find, because I've heard people say like, don't make your passion your career, and it's because of that reason. But the counter argument, and I actually probably agree with the counter argument more, is like, but then you'll never be able to be a professional at what you truly love to do, because you're gonna have to split your time with what makes you money, and then your hobby or your passion. You can only truly master something if you're gonna spend all day every day doing it, right?
And that's why I moved back to my parents' basement. Right? 100%. I knew if I went to go like work at Moxie's like I was doing during college, that when I got home from Moxie's I'd probably be too tired or whatever, right? Like, and you do the thing that's making you money, and then the other thing falls away. And there's a lot of people I went to school with that happened, right? Like they continued their job and did the thing on the side, and now that their thing on the side isn't their thing because life and money and time and whatever, right? Which is like also sad. And that's why I like fight with that, like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's like, well, no. Like, you like, it makes it easier to work. But I wouldn't say you're not working a day in your life, because like I still think of all the things that come with my job. Like if I could just paint pictures all day, awesome. But like social media, making content for social media, emails, correspondence, bookkeeping, advertising, right? Like there's so many other things that come with being an artist. It's not just painting. It's like all these other things that come. That's work. Like that's a job. So if I was physically just painting every day, then that.
I imagine that would be the, like,
That's
you
the
know,
goal.
that's the goal for you to
1000%.
scale up, so you can get to
Yeah.
a point where, okay, that's my content person. That's
Yeah.
my assistant with the emails, and you can just plug into your studio, paint,
all
and
day.
then walk away, and you have your team that takes care of everything else.
That 1000% is the goal. But making a team's very hard.
Well, yeah, now you're not being an artist. Now you have to be a manager.
Yes,
and then
I'm
you have
not a
to.
manager by any means. Like, I am like too nice. Like, I know.
Oh, no.
Because I've had a few. Like, I've tried more than a few people when it comes to like, email answering or packing and shipping orders, because that took a lot of my time also. And it's just hard because, one, can you pay somebody enough to care as much as you care? Because this is my baby.
Never.
And I do it so personally. Like, my emails, it like makes Dan cringe. Like, my husband Dan, we're very left brain, right brain, like very opposite people. And I would love to make enough money for him to like, for us to just grow mine together, but I don't at the moment. But one day, that would be awesome.
Very soon.
I'd love
Next
that.
time you're on the
Yeah,
podcast.
let's go. Let's manifest all these things. I love it. But he even like laughed. He's like, I couldn't even answer your emails because he's like corporate, like business, like per my last email, and I'm like emojis and like exclamation points because like I talked in my emails exactly how I talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Your
now.
authenticity just shines through,
I
right?
mean, because I
Yeah.
can't, like, that feels weird to be like, I don't know, just very professional like that. Obviously, I'm a professional, but in my own way. He's like, I couldn't even do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had someone that was great, but she got like a real big girl job. Like, I can't be like, no, stay with me, you know?
Right.
So it's been difficult doing that too and letting go. Like, I know it's impossible to scale to what I want to just myself, but letting go of control of things is like really hard.
Yeah, it's like, I think the biggest challenge for entrepreneurs when they get to the point where it's even possible for them.
Yeah.
It's like the mom and shop cookie
Yeah.
maker. That's like, now I have to go into management and leave the baking.
To
They may
somebody
not
else.
make it as good as me.
Yeah,
and
and
it's
they
like,
don't,
and they
and they
don't.
don't.
Yeah, and they don't. And I've tried it, and they always ruin it. And
Yes. And the girl that was like packing my orders for me, she like forgot a couple stickers, and like, because I always add like a free sticker, and like I handwrite a note, like,
Yeah.
and like that's time consuming. I can't do that for how big I want to scale it. And then like she wasn't writing the notes properly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, which
those
is, like,
details are so important,
so
right?
important.
Yeah,
And people like their reviews are like, love the handwritten note, like,
for sure.
you know, and that is hard for me to let go of. So I've struggled in that. I know you have to have a team and grow like that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's been the hardest part. For sure.
The whole new different skill set you have to develop.
Yeah.
Like, you're already an artist,
Yeah.
and now you're like, oh, now I have to do the business side,
Yeah.
the entrepreneurship
It's hard
side.
stuff. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, you're well on your way by the looks of it. Like, but
Well, again, like you roll the punches, right? Like you fake it till you make it, literally.
100%.
And like I remember my first commission, I didn't take a deposit or anything. It was like a friend at a party was like, I'd love for you to paint my dog, and they like sent me a picture, and like we decided on a price, and I painted the dog, and they like ghosted me, and I was like,
What?
but this was like what 10 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
You remember it. Of
My
course.
first mistake.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take a deposit. Like I
Mhm.
have to take a deposit, so you know that they're on true, like they're serious about it. And who's gonna leave that three? Like I take a 50% deposit, non-refundable. So like if you don't like your painting, you don't have to pay for the rest of it. But that's never happened, which is nice. But that one moment like taught me that, like, holy shit, I got to be more serious about this. I'm not gonna be like boozing out of. People like, you're an artist, I love you to paint my girlfriend. Like that happens all the time, right?
Mhm.
But it was like, oh no, I need like money down to like protect myself.
Start it.
Also,
That's my time,
Yeah.
right?
but I needed to do that wrong to like learn that.
Okay, I want to like now that you brought it up, it's one of those things like no one likes to fail,
Yeah.
right? Like especially if you're gonna move out of something you don't really know, you have to have the courage to do it. And you're like, I
Yeah.
just want to do it perfectly the first time. What is your, or I guess if you have any stories or kind of memories that stick out of you failing in that process? That was a good one, the
Yeah.
first one, and then being like, okay, well now I know that I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
But that kind of maybe bit you or stung at the moment, being
Yeah.
like, oh, that one I
It
could have
was
been better
so
at.
annoying. And because it's somebody's dog, it's not like I could just like sell. If it was like a picture of like Spider-Man, it's like, okay, well I could sell that to somebody
Easy,
else. But it's
yeah.
like, it's your freaking dog. That was a big one that will stick in there forever. And also another one that was similar was a friend. It was a closer friend, so I knew they were serious. I didn't take the deposit yet. It was around the same time, learning lots of things real quick. And it was, again, I was dealing with people who aren't in the art world, right? And so for me, I'm like, okay, I charge this much an hour, because that's what everybody wants to know. Like, how many hours are you going to do this? How are you charging me for this, right?
Right.
In the normal world, it's like, oh, your hair took this long. Like, this is how long it's going to be. But it's like, how do I know how long this painting's going to take before I do it for you, right? And so I said, oh, I charge, I think at the time it was like cheap, like $20 an hour or something. And now I'm like $100 an hour. But like back in the day, it was 20. But this painting took me so long. So it was like, I can't remember what it was. Like, I charged him $900 when it was done. And he was like, oh, that's way too expensive. I wasn't expecting it to be that much. And so that I had to learn, like, okay, people don't know how long something's going to take. They want to know how much something's going to cost before they get it. Yeah. So now when I offer commissions, it's price per size. Because now I have a very good idea roughly how long something's going to take me, because I've painted so much now at this point. I implemented this a long time ago, but that's kind of how I started, was like, this painting usually takes me 5 hours, whatever. I have a rough estimate. So I price according to size. And Smart. So you know how much your painting's going to cost before I start your painting. And so that's where that deposit, so I know your deposit's going to be. If you want, like, I can do it, but I don't like painting realistic color. So like skin colored. I like black and white with like crazy colors around.
No babies, no skin color.
I'll do skin color, but I'm going to charge you for it because I can do it. It's just not fun for me. So I charge extra for that. Like, because most of mine are like black and white with like pops of color and stuff around. Like, I like to do that. Or like rainbow, I love to do. So now I like charge extra for things that aren't my favorite. But if you want it, you can pay extra for it. Right. And then like, one person included in that canvas size, but if you want 2 people, it's like $80 a head after. So like, that person's free. You want one more person, $80. So like, I'm learning all of these things to add into my like commission spiel, so people can like pick through, like, I want this size. There's gonna be a person. This. Okay, it's gonna be this much. Right. And I haven't started yet, but they know and they're comfortable with this is the price. So there's no surprises. And there's times where maybe the painting takes me longer than I expect. So maybe I lose a little bit. But there's sometimes that the painting, I knock it out in a couple hours. So I'm like gaining on that one, right? Like, it figures itself out in the grand scheme. It
reminded me of like a saying of someone, I forget what it is, but it was like, it takes them 2 minutes to fix it, but it's like $1,000 thing. It's like, well, no, you're not paying me for the time. You're paying me for the years that I learned how to do that skill. Is that a Picasso?
Well, the story's like a lady saw Picasso in a cafe or something, and she said, "Oh my God, can you like paint me something on this napkin or draw me something?" And he like 2 minutes drew a little thing, and he said something like, I don't know the exact quote, but it was like $10,000 for this napkin. She's like, "What? That took you 2 minutes?" And he's like, "You're paying for my lifetime of skills to get for me to be able to do that in 2 minutes," type of thing, right? And that's what's hard in the art world too, because one, artists aren't always appreciated. I think it's getting a lot better, to be honest. Like, in the recent years, the creator is a little more appreciated. But 10 years ago, it's like, you're an art, like, well, you went and colored in art school, right? Like, it's not like why would I pay you for a picture? It's just, it wasn't as appreciated or acknowledged. And business people are like, time per hour, how much you cost per hour, what, like, they want that breakdown. But it's like, oh, that's not fair that me being able to paint this realistic portrait for you in 2 hours and that person does it in 20, I'm going to get paid less for it, but that's more of a skill. Do you know what I mean?
100%,
Yeah, so that, I would say the narrative that's changing a little bit more recent. I see a lot more appreciation in that end, but it's something that we fight with often.
Well, I think with creators too, one of the things as we move further into like the tech world, the skill that creators have and artists in general can't ever be like reproduced by like a machine. Like, you know, the AI can create art and create poetry, but I don't know, for me there's something about the human like the human touch, the human creativity, which actually is the thing that people are looking for. Even if it's a beautiful painting, the connection, right? To know that like some person has spent their life perfecting this craft, and then you get to have that painting in their house or something like that. Whereas before, like, the tech scene wasn't as hard, so like that was the cool thing. The tech side of things. I think as we move forward into the future, it's bouncing back, right? Because it's becoming more valuable because less people are doing it, and for me, I think it's a harder path. To like going back to what you're saying, like I moved in with my parents' basement, decided to pursue my dream. Speak on like that a little bit, because like the courage to even do that is like few and far between.
Is also stubborn though.
Stubborn. Okay, it's just pure stubbornness. Zero courage, all stubbornness.
Stubborn in there. And when you're just in it, you don't think of it like that, to be honest. Like, because it's next year will be my 10 years of being a full-time artist.
Like professional.
A professional, which is like, I'm always like, oh my God, I'm a professional. But it doesn't like feel like I am, to be honest. But I am. And I just don't, I'm like in it so much that I don't like sit and reflect on it enough, I think. That it is pretty like fucking cool. Like it is like,
it's the coolest thing, 100%.
And it was like ballsy of me to do it. And at the time I just like, it felt like it was the only thing like that I could do. I'm like, oh my God, I just went to college for 4 years and I don't have any prospects of jobs or anything. Like you have your parents' opinions weighing on your shoulders. You have like just the worry of failure laying on your shoulders. And to me, like that was the only way to like not have failure, was just like throw yourself in it and like prove that you want to be committed. Like that I could give it my all. And I would like work through the night. I guess that's something that we haven't talked about. I like create, and it's normal for a lot of creators, like at nighttime the creative flow kind of hits a little bit better. But since it's my job and I can decide when or not I work, at nighttime is usually when I do.
Do you have an opinion on that? Like, why do you think the creative flow comes easier in the evening? Because I've heard that, or like super early morning when the world is calmed down. Do you think that?
That's my thing, is like the world's calm. Like everyone else is sleeping. My news feed isn't going. I'm not getting emails.
Right.
And there's just something about the quiet at night, man. Like I wish I could work during the day as well as I work at the night. It would be so much easier, to be honest.
Normal life, maybe.
Normal life. Like, like I have a dentist appointment at 8. I don't have to like figure out like when am I going to bed and like when do I like wrap around, because I sleep. Like I usually get home from the studio at like 6 a.m.
Whoa! So you literally work throughout the whole evening.
Sometimes I don't even get to work till like 10 p.m. Like it's funny because Dan and I talk about. He pointed it out because again, when you're in it, you don't think about it. Like most people wake up, have breakfast, go to work, and then live life stuff after work, and then go to bed. I wake up, live life stuff, like grocery stores, appointments, whatever, because I'm waking up at like 3 or whatever.
Because you're going to bed at 6.
Yeah, and then I go to bed, and then I go to work through the night. I get home, go to bed. It's like a little bit of a different like schedule, lifestyle. Like
how have you worked out with Dan? Like, because he's kind of
not conveniently. Well, Dan works out of town a lot.
Okay.
So it's actually really funny because he's in the States and we like FaceTime like 6 times a day. But like he'll FaceTime me when he's going to bed and I'm like really into work at that moment. And then as I'm finishing work, like I FaceTime him to like wake him up.
Okay, interesting.
And he like goes to work, then I go to bed, and then the last chunk of our day is like mashed together.
Yeah.
But when he comes home, like I do like shuffle it around, obviously.
Take some time and
which is another beauty of my job, is that Dan and I both work very hard separately when we're apart, but when we come together, like I can forget my job for a couple of days. I don't have like to take vacation time from right? Like, or we could go on a trip quickly in the middle of a week somewhere. Like that really works well for us also, that we have that ability to like have downtime together.
Yeah.
Which also makes it hard. We're not good at like working together because we work together. Well, not we work well together, but I mean like we relax when we're together.
Right.
Because we're always like so into our jobs apart. And nice that we have that option too. Like I can be a creature in my studio for 4 days and not feel like I have to like come home, right? Because
no responsibilities there. Yeah.
We still communicate all the time, but it's it's nice to be able to have those.
Do you find like with your sleep kind of cycle being off the normal rhythm that like it affects you in other ways, like like just like even the focus and like these type of things? I would feel like it would compound sometimes maybe.
Now that we're over 30, I feel it.
Oh no, it hurt. The hangover from Beer Fest hurt a little longer maybe.
A little bit. I pop a lot of vitamin D. It does. Like yes and no. I know that the older you get, the harder it gets though. Like because I do feel it. Like I used to be able to run on like 3 hours of sleep and it was awesome. Now it's like if I don't get 7, I know.
Makes sense. Yeah, you feel it. You feel it.
And I so I work hard now, and I know there's like so much like science to like you're supposed to go to bed at the same time every day and like all these types of things. But then you think of like nurses and doctors and night shifters, right? That like bounce back and forth through a bunch of them. I try to at least have like 3 days of my night shifts. Maybe I'll have a day in there, but I like to have 3 in a row of the same thing.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. You're staying up late. 3 days.
Yeah.
You're not
And if I know something's coming up, I can like plan my life around it a little bit. It takes a little more like time and organization for that. Or like we have a trip coming up. That's what usually like messes me the most is like okay, I go to bed at 7 a.m. Oh, but now like when we went to Mexico for our wedding, we had to be at the airport at 5 a.m. I'm like, I usually wouldn't even been to bed yet. Like, like those like transition days are the worst.
You have to plan those ahead of time, I imagine.
Yeah. But then it's just like, again, roller coaster of like also like being a woman or freaking like the month is different. Like every other week you have like different energy levels. So like I try to match with that also.
Right.
And so there's times where I know like I'm not gonna get any work done at this week, and that's gonna be my downtime week. That's gonna be my emails week. That'll be my like I like kind of work around those also, because you can't be like on the whole month either. It's like
it burn you out, right?
It burns you out, yeah. And I've been through years of burnout, so I'm getting more mature,
more self-care, more understanding in that way.
A little bit, yeah.
Do you find as an artist, maybe this is a random question, but I know nurses have said in particular, like, oh yeah, if you work on a full moon, like you notice it. And I'm like, really? They're like, no, like you notice it. It's like an undeniable thing.
Yeah.
Do you find that at all with like being an artist, where like if the moon's shining, you're like, okay, I'm in the pocket tonight, or like the opposite?
It's usually off.
Okay, but it is something you notice.
Because I have a lot of like friends that like tune into that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would have noticed on my own, but like just through a conversation of like, oh well, it was a full moon last night. It's like, oh well.
Like, oh, and I wasn't really on point last night.
And that's like a couple times. Yeah, it's happened more than a few times for sure.
Interesting. Yeah. And so you said you have a studio.
I
but
do.
In passing, you said you might be thinking of transitioning.
Yeah, I'm in like a weird. So Dan and I just got married a couple months ago, and then he went off back to work in the States. And in the States, it's booming right now for what he's a geophysicist. And Canada has been shutting down jobs like that for a long time. And in the States, it's going really well. And we just had this like idea, because I also do comic expos, which is really funny because Beer Fest is the weekend after Calgary Expo every year, which is hilarious.
Busy for you.
Yes, but like, but again, like the ups and downs of entrepreneur life. It's like, oh well, now I know every year like this is a time I have to focus a lot of like printmaking, prepping, whatever, right? Like
you can build up to it a little bit.
Yeah, we know it's coming. That's fine. It's when it lands on your plate right in the minute is when it's stressful. But when you know it's coming, it's great. And comic expos are great for me. Calgary and Edmonton are the only ones I've ever done. And we always talk about after we got married that we would love to do like a cross Canada tour or a cross America tour. I would love to just like get my work in other places. It's like very intimidating to leave Alberta. It's like so easy, and there's so many like familiar faces that you see all the time, and you just know it does well there. But we always talked about how amazing it would be to try to do something like that. And he works at a bunch of different jobs. It's kind of bouncing around. And we've thought of like potentially like getting an RV and bouncing around to his jobs, but also doing like American comic expo tours also. So then we like get to like be together, which because we get along so well and we spend a lot of time apart. So it would be nice to like be together. He still has his job, but I also still have my job in a different way that we've always wanted to try. And again, like the economy, like I mentioned before, is like rougher in Canada right now too. And I know that art is a luxury. It's not like you're going to be always buying art when there's higher costs and higher taxes and higher things going on. So sometimes, like, not to be like the negative Nancy gloom, but like sometimes the future is worrisome looking that way.
As a creator,
as a creator, 1,000%. And talking about loving working from home, like I've loved this new space. It'll be about 3 years that I've been in this studio storefront space. And the studio's amazing and it's huge, and I have all the space to do everything I need: live stream, pack orders, paint. I have a storefront in the front, the paint night space where people can rent it out and I can teach paint night. Like, it's great. But then there's like days where it's such like a spoiled brat thing of me to say, but like I miss working from home, like because of having that moment of like, I feel creative right now. Oh, I can just go and do it. Now it's like I drive 20 minutes, and then it's like, well, then do I still feel like painting when I get there? And then I'm there, and I'm like trying to fight the.
I came here. I should work now.
Yeah, like that. So there's like that, and again, I know it's so like spoiled because I know so many artists would love to have the space, and I do love having the space, but sometimes it feels a little like a burden in that time because then I also have to pay rent there too, right? So it's like, oh, do I get rid of paying the rent? So there's that chunk of income that is not going to somewhere else. I can work from home in the times that I can, or we can live on the road for a bit and just try that out. Like try that bouncing around to different expos and like getting my work into like a different market
For sure.
Cool. And again, just change it up. Entrepreneur life, man, right? Like,
see what works, see what sticks.
We just get Starlink for the camper, and I could like do live stream paint nights again virtually, right? And I could still sell my prints because I found a print on demand service. So anytime somebody makes an order on my Etsy or my website, this company makes it, ships it, sends it.
Easy.
It takes, obviously, it's a little bit more expensive than me doing it myself, but there's the time.
Yeah.
And like inventory that you don't have to worry about.
The process of having those things taken care of is amazing.
It's like priceless in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like playing, like nothing sets down. Nobody freak out about it yet.
Like I'm still here, everyone. I'm still here. My paint nights are still happening.
Yeah, still going strong. But it's something that we've like thought about.
Yeah.
And like before, like when like kids, right? Like who knows when that's coming? We're 32.
Someday.
Biological clocks are ticking.
Right. You want to be a mom?
Yeah, we do. Yes, I do.
He wants to be a dad, obviously.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Dan's gonna be the best dad. We would love to have a family. Like me, right now, my job is my baby.
Right, of course.
And so that's like intimidating because like I don't get maternity leave, right? Like there's many things that are hard for entrepreneurs to take that jump. Like I feel like my job will be left in the dust for at least a year.
Right.
Not completely, but
it'll be secondary. It would have to be.
Yeah,
right?
it's not my first baby anymore, and that's like scary too. I already had a hard time like giving somebody like my emails for like a couple months, like let alone, like it's a huge life change, but it's like something that we like want.
Mm-hmm. And you see that in your future eventually.
Yeah, for sure. Babies and toddlers freak me out, but everything above that's great. Like I'm great with kids like that I can like talk with, but like
when you hold a baby and they're like
scared.
heads falling off, you're like, oh
babies.
no, this is.
I don't get why people like to hold babies. Like. Weird, but everyone's like, when it's your own baby, whatever.
I'm sure, yeah, and
I like, we have to do it. I have to do it. That's
you're the responsibility
too.
for it.
Yeah, that's scary too.
I have a question with regards to like aspiring artists, because I'm sure there's a ton of people out there who would literally love to be doing what you're doing. You're kind of, by the looks of it, living out a dream that you had, and it's kind of manifesting itself as you go step by step. Yeah. When people have self-doubt or they don't really believe that they could do it, like going back, rewinding to how you thought when you had that decision of like, okay, well, there's no job offers. Do I keep working at a career? Do I move back in with my parents' house? A lot of people would think that'd be like a step back.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't want to do that. That makes me feel like I'm losing progress.
Yeah.
Do you have any like words of wisdom or just like a tip, tricks, advice for aspiring artists that feel like they have the call, feel like they have the talent, willing to put in the work, number one? That just is like an encouraging word or like a word of like avoid,
I have both, actually. I have both. Like, it is such a fulfilling job. You meet so many amazing people. You get like the feeling of like, some people don't like doing commissions though, like that. So like some artists frown upon my journey. That's where Painter for the People comes in, because it's like you're a sellout.
They would call that.
Oh
right?
yeah, I've been called a sellout more than once.
So why exactly?
Because I paint anything. Well, some like that's why, like, not to. I don't have to.
You're not so pure. You're not pure, Tay. You're a pure artist. You paint for other people.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
And like, because like when I went to ACAD, I went into design. It's like design majoring in illustration, and it's like very job based. Like you're going to do this as a job. They like beat down your ego real quick, like, because like you're painting for somebody else. So like you have to listen to the client, even if you don't like something, but they do. Like they're paying you, you have to fix it. While like if I went in the fine art direction, it's like you paint your emotions, you paint what you love. That's it. And so those two different sides of the school really like butt heads, because we're like, yeah, we want money, it's a job, like, and they're like, how dare you, like, this is my passion, right? When I guess it's my passion, but for a different purpose. So you have to like leave your ego at the door a little bit. I remember my first critique, they're called, at art school. Like after your project's done, you put your art up on the wall with everybody else, and everybody has to say a good thing and a bad thing about it. And I remember my like very first one, I went in like so cocky, like mine's the best, I can tell.
Clearly.
And the teacher said not one good thing about it. Oh no. And I cried in the bathroom for sure, because all the way through high school, everything, no one's ever said your art's bad. They're like, your art's amazing. Like no one's ever said anything bad about it. So I was just like ego filled, like I'm the best. And I for sure cried. And that teacher for sure pushed me so hard that whole year. And at the end, he was like, gave me an A++. And I was like, I never got an A the whole time. And I was just like fighting so hard to get it. And he's like, that first day, so the day that I was talking about, he's like, when I saw your work, I knew that you would put the time in. And if I just buttered your muffin, you wouldn't try.
Right.
And then that like stuck with me because it did like break my like it didn't make me sad when somebody said something bad about it. It made me like, okay, well, I'll fix it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, then I'll do whatever I can to make it right for you.
Right.
And when you're working in commissions, you have to let go of that because it's like you're making something for this other person. Like, they are paying you a lot of money for it. They're going to be looking at it every day. Once it's out of my studio, I'm never going to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
I want it, me personally, want it perfect for them. So if they say, like, oh, my wife's lips look off, I'm not going to be like, aw. I'm going to be like, okay, let me fucking fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
Tell me what I need to do to make it better or whatever.
Because you're going to, and people like get really worried about telling me that something's off. So I always give them the spiel, like, if anything looks weird or off, like, please tell me. Don't think I'll be offended. This is for you. It's my job. Like, I want this to be perfect for you. So you kind of have to, like, leave your ego at the door a little bit. Like, don't take it personally. Like, this person likes you enough to pay you to paint something already. Like, that should be, like...
It's a big win.
Yeah, that's already a win, right? Like, try to, like, detach emotion from it. I think that's the difference of design to fine art is, like, there's a lot of emotion on this side, and this is... There's not... You have to, like, leave your emotion at the door a little bit. So don't, like, take it as personally as you, like... think you have, because art is a personal thing.
100%. It's your expression, right?
So if you want to go into it like the way I did, doing commissions and stuff for people, you like it can't be like, because it'll destroy you. Like you will be crying in the bathroom forever. You'll never get out of that bathroom.
So with that, like, so a lot of artists, and I think this is not even just painters, but even people that create in a variety of ways, you want feedback from the world in order to like perfect your craft. But then because it's an expression of your creation, it like, of course it's going to be personal when they say it's not great, but it's like, how do I guess for you, it was just like, know that you will take it personally, but then try not to.
Yeah. Like learn it again. It's like a thing you learn, like the more that it happens, and I can't say that I don't ever like not get offended. Like, but you have to like leave it at like you're deep.
I think you're wrong, but it's okay.
Yeah, like it's so funny because when Dan and I first got together 10 years ago, he's like, everything's amazing, and I'm like, no, like this is my job, like pick it apart. And it took him like 5 years to like really be able to like see things properly. And it's funny when he like doesn't say something right away, like I already know that like something's wrong, right?
Like, tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, for a second,
I know
I'm like,
there's
what's wrong?
something.
And like my mom too, like she was always the same, like everything's great, but now she's like a lot more confident and like telling me something's off. And it's funny because it's just my mom, classic like girl daughter. Like whenever she says something, like I'm always like pissed.
Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel that immediately like mad. But again, it's like, I know she's just helping, and she was right. Like I just painted Taylor Swift, and she said her nose. She's like, something about her nose is off, and I was like, yeah, right, mom.
You don't know what you're talking
and
about.
And then I spent like literally 2 hours on that stupid nose, and she was right, and it was fixed.
Was it a commission for someone, or you just like,
okay? Paint for the people. I've been asked so many times to paint Taylor Swift.
Interesting.
That I was just like, fine.
Are you a Swiftie?
No.
Okay, so you're like, you weren't like super pumped about it either. You're like, okay, I'll do it.
Which is hard sometimes too. Like when
I
you're
bet.
not into a painting, I can feel it halfway through, where I'm like, you gotta pull yourself.
Do you walk away and then come back, or do you just push through it?
No,
okay.
No, I am always painting multiple paintings at a time. So like assembly line painting.
Really?
Is what I call it. And that helps for my little ADHD brain, and it also helps for that, like stepping away from things, coming back with fresh eyes. So like if I have, like example right now, I'm working on 4 different commissions, like a portrait, a dog, a boudoir photo, which is a lot of fun. And what's the last one? I can't remember at the moment. And so I'll take out like black paint, and I will paint the black on this one till the black's done, get the next one out, use that color on all of them. Gotcha. And then that one's drying, right, as we're going around through. And then when I'm done, I'll come back to the next one, what color am I using next? And then I'll like color on all of them. And so that helps for like time also.
Yeah, no kidding.
A lot of artists, like, it's hard because we're all so different that my career path and how I do things doesn't work for everyone, because not everyone's a fast painter. Not everyone can jump from painting to painting, right? Like all that. I can't paint hyper realistic like some of these artists who sell their paintings for thousands and thousands of dollars. Like I can't do that. That's not how my business plan can go. It's like hard to have like a one-track way for every artist like coming up for it.
It would make it almost impossible, because then it wouldn't be authentic to that artist, right?
Exactly.
Like,
which is like tough, right? Because I get asked all the time, and I'm never a gatekeeper of secrets or
share the wisdom.
Always, like we're all different. It's not like you're gonna copy exactly, like you can't. Like we physically all can't copy each other. I've stolen ideas from stolen, whatever, adopted
Yeah.
ideas from other people. So if any artist ever asks me and I like get to the DM because I'm really bad at DMs, it's like quicksand in there. But I will always answer questions and give advice for what worked for me, but with the disclaimer of like, but it can't work for everyone.
Might not work for
Yeah.
you. I think
This
that
was work
might
for
be
me.
one of the biggest things that stop people from doing it. So like people will look like, oh, well, someone's already doing that.
Mhm.
Like, oh, it's like someone's already a painter.
Somebody's always gonna be better than you. That's another advice.
That is a good
That's
piece.
The best. You will never be the best. Someone's always gonna be better.
Mhm.
But you can be your best.
And that's what you should worry about, right? And have won.
Yeah. It's like, yes, there's millions of artists out there. There's millions of designers. There's millions of beers. Like there's right? Like the world is huge and crazy, but why should that stop you from like finding your like niche and your like community of people?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a community. You're not going to please everyone. I've been pretty lucky on the internet, to be honest. I haven't had too many like trolls or whatever you want to call them, but there are times that like not everyone's going to like everything you paint.
Yeah.
But again, that's like the like ego or the like the emotion side of it that you kind of have to like try to hone in.
Why don't they love me for this or something like
and it's
that?
like, no, but this person does, so like focus on that side of it. Like you have a fan over here, doesn't mean that one fan, not fan,
Yeah.
that one hater matters, right? So
And
it's a lot of inner work stuff too, for sure.
Well, that's interesting that you said that, because I find with like the journey of entrepreneurship, artist, creator, the inner work side of it almost is like a reflection of the art that's created. And it's like when people are like, oh, well, I'll just work, it's like you will refine your external expression when your internal world becomes in alignment, right? Especially for an artist, getting into flow, getting into that pocket of creative potential or whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Tay, you're awesome. Thanks for coming to Beer
Thanks,
Fest.
Dylan.
I can't wait to have you back every year, and hopefully we can keep growing it and seeing where we go.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time today,
Of course.
and we'll do this again soon.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of
This was
course. Later. See you.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.